Complex News, I'm Pierce Simpson. Remember when you listened to Dr. Dre's next episode, and everybody's favorite part was at the end when Nate Dogg came out of nowhere like Sting from the Raptors to tell us to smoke weed every day?
Hold up.
Well, folks, the day where we're free to smoke weed every day is upon us. With 15 states and Washington, D.C. legalizing cannabis, we should expect more states to follow suit in the near future. As of right now, only 6 states don't offer medicinal cannabis in some shape or form. The incoming administration didn't run on a platform advocating legalization, but Biden has pledged support in federally decriminalizing cannabis. Vice President-elect Harris has also publicly pledged to decriminalize, and as a senator has sponsored the Marijuana Opportunity Reinvestment and Expungement Act, or better known as MORE. The proposed measure seeks to end federal prohibition of marijuana, take pot off the list of controlled substances, and provide inducements to states who expunge records of those who have marijuana-related convictions, among other things. According to the Marijuana Business Fact Book, weed sales are on trend to break revenue records with projections, having industry pulling in easily $15 billion this year. That's more than the NBA, toothpaste, and hard seltzer combined, and a 40% increase from 2019. The fact book also predicts weed sales will hit $37 billion by 2024, more than prescription pain medicine and craft beer. These money trends have pushed many celebrities to get in on the action. Snoop Dogg, Jay-Z, Gwyneth Paltrow, Seth Rogen, Martha Stewart, and the ex-Speaker of the House, John Boehner, are public figures who have all invested in cannabis. So there's only a matter of time before the federal government wants a piece of the pie. Now, what does that mean for regular Joes like you and me? Should we spend our hard-earned cash on weed stocks? The trends say yes. With many already using stock buying apps like Robinhood to buy shares in publicly traded companies like Apple and Tesla, it might be the smart move to get in on the weed game early to reap the benefits later. For starters, you want to put your cash behind companies that can grow their revenue. According to a report published by Grandview Research, the global legal marijuana market is anticipated to reach $73.6 billion by 2027. That's a compound annual growth rate of 18%. Another analyst from Cohen shows that the cannabis market could generate as much as $75 billion in gross annual sales by 2026, up from a prior forecast of $50 billion. Looking past the short term, there's tremendous growth for the cannabis industry, making PIF stocks an intriguing long-term investment. Weed's legal status in Canada allows pot companies to be traded freely on the country's market exchanges, and plenty of U.S. and Canadian businesses involved with weed are publicly traded on the U.S. stock market as well. But because trees are still illegal on a federal level, pure play cannabis companies don't trade on the U.S. markets just yet. As legalization continues to spread, more and more companies will begin to trade publicly. To the north, Canada's leading pot producer, Canopy Growth, shocked investors when it reported a 13% loss in Q4 earnings in March. However, Q1 results for fiscal 2021 gave investors hope with a 22% year-over-year revenue increase. Many view Canopy as a top player in the industry, especially given alcoholic beverage giant Constellation Brands' 38.6% stake in the company, which is also steadily growing. Canopy Growth has a strong financial position, having improved its free cash flow by more than 50% since Q1. As of June 30th, the company had $2 billion in cash and short-term investments. We know that's a bunch of industry jargon, but important information to know. There's several weed companies in North America who are worth $1 billion, including several American companies that have a market cap between $2 billion to $5 billion. This includes companies like Curaleaf, GW Pharmaceuticals, Aurora Cannabis Inc., and the aforementioned Canopy Growth. Which brings us to Cresco Labs Inc. The Illinois-based company has been overlooked because of the companies we just mentioned, yet some experts feel that Cresco is a real solid company with a very bright future. With new states legalizing pot, they've zeroed in on key U.S. markets and try to differentiate themselves from the competition. We spoke to their VP of product, David Sanchez, about being different and taking advantage of the trends.
We see in the cannabis industry, it's booming like never before, and we envision it continuing to grow. So for you, as somebody who's VP of product, how do you go about developing products that differentiate from others in the market?
I think that's a good question. I think you got to differentiate yourself by quality and by product offering. Right now, especially in mature markets, the product offerings are pretty competitive. Specifically for flower and vapes in California, I think those categories are flooded. Brand recognition is very important, and the quality associated with that brand speaks paramount to the product, right? And so certain companies, you can expect a certain caliber of, quality manufacturing, quality specifications, and customer interaction with the company, right? So not only does the product arrive to the shelf with quality in mind, but afterwards, once the consumer has a product in hand, they also have that that engagement with the company to say, did you like the product? Did you like how it performed? Did it have the efficacy that you were after? And if so, a lot of those people, leave positive remarks. I think in another way, product offering is huge, and I think as cannabis gets mainstreamed, a lot of new people that are new to cannabis are trying to understand cannabis and what works for them. And so traditional forms like vaping and like smokables, like joints, flower, things like that might not be so appealing to new folks. And so you start looking at ingestibles like edibles. It could be familiar factors like tablets, mints. You start delving into chocolates, confections. So a lot to differentiate yourself for sure.
What's a popular trend in cannabis that maybe you're excited for that people aren't necessarily aware of, or what's something that's really sticking out to you that is trending upward in the cannabis space?
I think something that's quickly trending, or at least starting to pick up trend, because I think some of this technology has been out for a while, but sometimes these technologies are out and they just take a little bit for people to catch on, right? And one of these technologies is fast onset. Right. And fast onset technology, I mean bioavailability and how quickly those effects can be felt. So specifically for gummies, right? Everybody knows that when you take an edible, an average onset time can be an hour, 2 hours, right? And when you talk about sessionability, right? Like in terms of like a beer is sessionable, right? You can have one beer with the crew, you can have one beer with the homies, 2 beers with the homies, and you kind of know where that puts you. And you're like, all right, in an hour, 2 hours, I'll be good. Or maybe, I'll hold off for 30 minutes before I have another one. Edibles is a little bit different because sometimes you're like, dang, that didn't do anything. I'm gonna pop 2 more, 1 more. And then, 3 hours later, you're passed out. You wake up the next day, you're like, that was a bad mistake, So what this fast onset technology will do is eliminate that guesswork and take that gummy and that same chocolate confection, whatever have you, into a sessionable experience, something that you can have right now, feel 20, 30 minutes later, and understand those effects so that you then feel comfortable with taking another, or, you make the best decision at that point.
Investopedia credits Cresco Labs along with Neptune Wellness Solutions and Hushi's Holdings Inc. as being the fastest growing cannabis stocks of November 2020. Each company focuses on different parts of the game. Hushi is expected to report recorded earnings of $24 million this third quarter. They also listed companies like Grow Generation Corp, TrueLive Cannabis Corp, and Planet 13 Holdings as the stocks with the most momentum in the cannabis sector. The weed industry is anticipated to increase $33.9 billion by 2025. With a compound annual growth rate of 18.2%, according to a recent report by the ArcView Group, a San Francisco-based cannabis investment and research firm. It's a lot of dough. Before you invest big cash into any publicly traded companies, it's important you have all the facts. Ensuring you understand the market you're investing in is crucial to your success. Make sure you do your due diligence and research on market size, ratio, volatility, etc. If you're unsure about any information you find, it may be a good idea to talk to an investment advisor. We want to hear your comments about the cannabis industry down below, and be sure to keep things locked to Complex News by subscribing to us on YouTube. For Complex News, I'm Pierce Simpson.